We set the goal for $2 million for the year. At this point where we're at, it was just not attainable. And so we reestablished that goal. What do we have on the books for the week? Okay, this is how much we're short. This is what you guys need to make up the difference. So they know exactly what their numbers are. You know what? If they're not going to leave, and they're going to help you reach your goals because they know that their paycheck is tied to those things as well. And the more money the business makes, the more money they make, and they know that.
What's going on, guys? Today I'm joined by Chris Plunkett. Chris is the owner of Tailored Mechanical. They're based out in Arizona, and they've been in business for over a decade now, so since 2013. So he has a ton of experience, and it's going to be a super valuable call. So for starters, thank you for hopping on today, Chris.
Yeah, hey, I'm glad to be here. Appreciate you having me on.
For sure. So before we dive into it, can you just give us some context about who you are and kind of like the size of your business?
Yeah, so Chris Plunkett, owner of Tailored Mechanical in Tucson, Arizona. We currently have 3 guys out in the field doing HVAC service. This summer has been a little tricky, and so we decided to downsize by 1 on the team to make sure that we kept everybody busy. And it's a difficult decision as an owner to make, but ultimately it's something that had to be done.
Absolutely. And so that makes it 3 plus yourself. Is there anyone else involved, or just the 4 of you?
My wife actually is involved in the business as well. She takes care of the day-to-day operations in the office. She's kind of our office coordinator. She handles calls that come in, dispatching. She takes care of follow-up for certain things, some ordering here and there. And then I'm actually not in the field myself, but I do handle certain things in the operations. I manage the service team. I help with the install team. And so it's just the 5 of us currently.
Awesome. Okay. And between the 5 of you, if you don't mind sharing kind of like what is the revenue numbers behind the business?
We set the goal for $2 million for the year. That goal we set at the end of last year based on projections for how we did and expected growth. As a result of a couple of things. One, I think everybody would agree that we're in a market right now that is down. The economy is not doing as well. So people are holding on to their money. There's a lot of different things that have gone into that. Some people are blaming it on an election cycle and just a number of different things. The way I look at it is I actually made a mistake of kind of trusting my marketing team a little bit too much and giving them more leeway than I should have. I did an independent audit. I hired somebody for that. They let me know that team actually wasn't providing me the service that they should have. I ended up letting them go and going with another outfit. I think that is something that's going to lead to us being able to hit what we've set as a new goal of 1.3, because as I mentioned, we were pretty far down from our goal. We had set the goal, like I said, at 2 million, and we ended up with I think a deficit of close to 600,000 if we were going to go month by month on that. And so as an owner, I took a step back and said, we've got to do something so that we can at least, have a goal to hit. It's, goals they have to be SMART, right? And the M in SMART is measurable. The A is achievable, attainable. 2 million at this point where we're at this far down was just not attainable. And so we reestablished that goal. It's something that I think sometimes owners will set a goal and then they realize that they're not going to get there and they don't end up pushing for something. They just let it go. And then whatever happens, happens. And so we had to, I got this from one of my clients. They said they had to take a step back and punt. And I loved that analogy because it allows you to kind of reset, so to speak. And and when you punt, it means that you didn't get that touchdown, but you're going to have another opportunity, very likely, to make it into the end zone, just from a different position later on. So I like that.
Yeah. That's awesome. And I mean, even 1.3 million with only 3 people out on the field is very impressive. Like, I'm always amazed when I speak with HVAC business owners because that much revenue per technician is crazy. Like, it's unheard of in obviously the pressure washing industry. Regardless, even 1.3 million is very impressive. So with that being said, I like the whole analogy and everything you just explained. I feel like a lot of people, they have these huge goals. They talk about these amazing things they want to do, but they have no actual measurable way of getting there, and they're not really tracking their success. So what you guys did is you had a big goal, and then as time went on, you realized, based on what's left in the year and what your current situation is, you had to reassess. Can you tell me a bit more about how you kind of set goals and go about measuring performance?
Yeah. So I mean, I love that smart, specific, measurable, attainable, relatable, and time bound for our goals. And when we look at our numbers on a daily, weekly, monthly, quarterly, yearly basis, we're going to be able to tell how we're performing, how we're doing. We try to have we have the goal for our technicians for a certain amount of revenue on a specific call, every call, for whether it's maintenance or a demand service call or an install. We have an average ticket that we're looking for them to hit. Sometimes they're way above, sometimes they're a little below. And what that does is when we look at the average, that shows us whether we're on target to hit our goals. And so for us to hit our goal right now, I believe we have a weekly target of 23,587 for the three technicians combined. And we look at the beginning of on Monday, we look at the what do we have on the books for the week? Okay, this is how much we're short. This is what you guys need to make up the difference on the incoming calls that are the demand calls that come in or the maintenance calls that come in. So they know exactly what their numbers are. I know there's a lot of business owners out there who don't like to share the numbers because they think, well, they're going to see how much money we make and then they're going to go off and start their own business. You know what? If you're treating them right, they're not gonna leave, and they're gonna help you reach your goals. I'm a big advocate for sharing the numbers in the business. I share, and I don't mean I tell them we need to make this much money. I tell them they know what our profit margins are. They know what our gross margins are. Like, they understand all that, so they know. Because if you just share the revenue or you just share one of those numbers, it can get in their heads that, oh, I can make this money. But then they realize that, yeah, the business does make a profit, but they also know that I work hard. I treat them well, and so that really helps them to want to help me reach those goals because they know that their paycheck is tied to those things as well. And the more money the business makes, the more money they make, and they know that.
For sure. Yeah, and two important points you hit on is, number one, being a business owner at many times sucks. Like, most people do not want to live the life of a business owner, so they don't want to start their own business. But if they think it's such an amazing opportunity and they're not really enjoying the work they're doing with you, they feel like they're undervalued, they're not being heard, they're not, reaching their full potential, then absolutely they might have the idea of starting their own business. But like you said, if you treat them really well, if you pay them well, if they feel fulfilled in the work they do, they'll never have the desire to go out and do their own thing, because that's a headache that's just not necessary.
Yeah, I remember a phrase from the CEO owner Virgin Mobile or Virgin Airlines. Is it Richard Branson?
Richard Branson.
Like Richard Branson, yeah. He was in a board meeting and somebody at the table said, "Why are we spending all this money on training when they could end up just being trained and leave the company?" And he's like, "Let me just give you another theory here. What if we don't train them and they stay?" And so we focus really heavily on training our team and making sure that they understand not just how to fix things, but how to deal with customer service and even some business training and obviously sales training. We really focus on teaching our team and making sure that they really know what goes into running a business, not just how to turn the wrenches.
For sure. Yeah, and I think I might have seen this on your guys' website where you brought your team to like an expo. Is that correct?
Yeah, so we brought them to the AHR Expo in Chicago earlier this year, I think January, February. We bring the team to training at least one major event every year somewhere in the country. And then we also bring them to training that's more regional, things that are less turning the wrenches and more personal development.
That's awesome. Yeah, I recall seeing that on your website. And back to our point, like I think a lot of people don't really train and do that to that extent with their employees because they're afraid of maybe them leaving and magically having these skills to now be able to start their own business. But again, back to your earlier point, as long as they're satisfied with what they're doing, you giving them the resources, the education, that personal self-development is just going to make them enjoy this line of work even more. And they're not going to, in very, very rare cases are they going to want to go and start their own thing. They're just going to end up doing their current work for your business even better than what they were doing before.
Absolutely. And it keeps them from wanting to go work somewhere else because nobody else is going to offer the training that we do to our team.
Exactly. And that leads into something I want to talk about, which was quality of people. I know you guys don't have a ton of team members, but it sounds like you guys have really good quality team members. I feel like a lot of companies, they just have tons and tons of employees, a lot of turnover, and it's always a game of training people, keeping them, losing them, and repeat. It seems like you guys are very focused on quality. So I'm curious, throughout your hiring process, like what do you look for in someone to tell whether they are that quality person or not?
Absolutely. So we actually we stopped hiring people who were technicians in the sense that they've got 10 years of experience, because what we have found is what most technicians have is 1 year of experience 10 times over, right? They never get any additional training past. They spent maybe 6 months or a year with a trainer, and then they get tossed into their own truck. And the next thing you know, they're 10 years down the road and have not gained any additional skills. So what we're doing is we're finding people who are really good at customer service. So think of the last time you went to Starbucks or Chick-fil-A, and the people that they hire, they don't hire people that know how to make great coffee. They don't hire people that know how to make chicken. They hire people who are bubbly and friendly and can communicate. And then they teach them how to make coffee. They teach them how to make chicken, right? We hire those same kinds of people, and we teach them to HVAC. That's what I tell them. It's like, if you want to learn how to do this, I'm happy to teach you, but you have to have the right personality. And so one of the things that I've taken to recently, I really like the Myers-Briggs type indicators. I don't want to call it a personality test because it's really not what it is. It's more, it teaches you how somebody communicates and how they react to the way you communicate. We take that information. I've used that to kind of create an assessment for whether or not somebody is going to be a good fit for the way that we need them to communicate with customers, and whether or not they're willing to be coachable, really, and if they're somebody who's a good communicator, somebody who pays attention to detail. We'll find that out from the assessment that we give them, as well as the interview process that they go through. And, the last thing I want is somebody on my team who plays the victim. Everything is somebody else's fault. Everything that goes wrong in their life, they have no bearing on it. I think that, I believe, because I was taught this at an early age, life is 10% what happens to you, 90% how you react to it. And I want to find people that share that same belief, and people who aren't, blaming everybody else for their shortcomings. And that has led to us really being able to keep a good team on. And I mean, our churn rate is pretty low. Our lowest term guy has been with us over a year. We've got 2 and 3 year technicians that are with us as well.
I just love the fact that you said that, because there's so many business owners that they hire based on experience. And honestly, I think it's such a bad idea, because more often than not, their experience is with bad companies that had poor processes, and they're accustomed to these poor processes. Now you need to reset how they look at things, their mindset when it comes to certain things, reset everything. And that's very hard to do. So honestly, like you said, looking for people, maybe they don't have any experience at all, but they're just an amazing person. They have the right energy, the right mindset and morals. If you find that person, training them on the service itself is the easy part. the finding the right fit is a hard part. Training them on how to do, pressure washing or HVAC. I mean, it might take a few weeks or a few months to train them, but if they're the good fit, they might work with you for years on end.
Absolutely. I do have one guy that had probably 8 years in the industry, 6 years when he started with me, and he's been with me a couple years now. And so it's not that I'm opposed to hiring somebody who's got experience, but I'm more focused on those other skills, the things that are the soft skills that aren't related to what I call turning the wrenches.
100%. Because finding someone with good experience, but they're not really the right culture fit or right, like we said, just the right mindset, it's going to be very hard to shift that. And more likely than not, they just won't mesh well with the company values, the culture, and it probably won't last long.
Yeah, I'm all about the company culture. I've worked really hard to develop a place where on Monday night people aren't dreading coming to work, or excuse me, Sunday night they're thinking about Monday morning. And somebody made a post recently that I saw, and I liked that they said that if your culture is about core values and mission and vision, and that's where it starts. But what it really boils down to is, how do your people feel Sunday night? And I thought that was really, really clever.
Yeah. I've never actually thought about that, but that is a good question. Like, are they dreading the work they're showing up to the next day, or are they excited to go to sleep knowing once they wake up, it's time to get back to work?
I mean, not that anybody's like actually excited to have to work. Like, we all do this for a reason, right? We have to earn an income to take care of our families. But if you're excited about being able to take care of your family working here, that tells me that I've done the right thing on building culture in my business.
100%. Awesome. So you gave us a good idea of how you go about finding the right fit. Now, in regards to your processes, I know communication is a big thing for you guys. Aside from the basics of, calling leads as they come in, scheduling estimates, things of that nature, how do you go out of your way with communication to make sure that the customer feels heard and they know exactly what's going on at all times?
Yeah, so I mean, we use HouseCall Pro, which has a feature built in for texting. So all of our team can see when a customer communicates in. They see that message if they were the technician who was on site for that customer. They'll be able to respond to that if need be, to make sure that if there's any questions, they can answer those directly. We've integrated Company Cam into our business, which allows us to share videos as well. So we get done with a project, and maybe one of the homeowners is there and the spouse isn't. We can actually record a video and share everything that we went through with the spouse, so that information is relayed properly and in the same way. There's no confusion. Of course, we're happy to answer any questions they come up with after the fact, but we make sure that we're using technology to its full advantage. The thing I mentioned earlier about coming up with an assessment, I used ChatGPT to help me with that. We use AI as much as we can in the business, and that's really helped us to stay on top of communication. We also have in our office, my wife Scarlett, she takes care of happy calls, so following up with customers after the fact, making sure everything went well, making sure the technicians followed their process. So we have a lot of things like that we utilize.
Awesome. Yeah, I think happy calls are super important, and I feel like a lot of people, once they do the job, they get paid, and that's it. And if they call back, it's just to make sure they get their money, and that's really it. But when you lead by asking these type of questions, make sure the customer's happy, you'll get more reviews out of it. Maybe you'll get a referral out of it. You can get a lot out of, you can squeeze the juice out of each customer. But if your communication stops once you're paid, then it's really not going to go anywhere.
Yeah, our system follows up with the customer for a review, but we actually set that tone before we even walk in the house. It's, hey, Michael, it's my job today to provide you with a 5-star service. If at any time during today's visit you're not getting a 5-star service, stop me and let me know. I want you to feel comfortable doing that, okay? Then we move on through the rest of the call. At the end of the visit, it's followed up with, hey, Michael, I noticed you didn't stop me today during the visit and tell me that I could improve by XYZ. I hope that's because I provided you a 5-star service. How did I do today? Great. I'm glad to hear that. Or if it's, if there was an issue, they'll address that right then and there. And then when we take care of that thing, when it comes time for that review, because they'll get a text message from the system automated, and it'll ask for how we did. And so we've got over 600, close to 700 5-star reviews across, if you just count Google, we're at close to 700. And then we've got other platforms as well. So we make sure that we keep that communication going after the service call is complete.
That's great. And I really like that strategy. Instead of just straight up asking for the 5-star review, you're first confirming their content and they're actually thinking this is a 5-star service. Because if not, then you definitely want to make it right before you send them that link and they go in and start, typing stuff that you could have fixed. But, if they are happy with the service, and by all means, then you can ask for the 5-star review and know that you actually earned it because they agreed it was a 5-star service.
And every now and then you get that person that's like, I don't leave 5-star reviews. I only do 4 unless you really wowed me. And then we ask them, oh, well, how do we wow you today? So we can get that extra star. How can I earn that?
Yeah. And I'm sure from all the service companies they've ever worked with, in those rare cases it does happen, they probably never had someone ask them that. And once they realize it, there probably really isn't anything else. You probably did an amazing job. Or if there was anything missing, then they'll let you know what you could do, and you could do it then and also in future services.
Yeah, one of my coaching clients had that happen. And they were like, yeah, we don't do the 4. We only do 4-star. We don't do 5-star reviews unless somebody really wows us. And so he's in the garage door industry, so he ended up doing like a free roller service for them, and they gave him the extra star. So it worked.
Yeah, you got a 5-star review out of it, so definitely worth it. Awesome. But so communication is obviously a huge part of building customer satisfaction, which again, I know that's a very big thing for you guys. Aside from just amazing communication, what other like little strategies or things do you guys do to increase the customer satisfaction?
It's a good question. So, I mean, besides our automations with the emails and texts that we use, and the happy calls, that's a good question, Michael. I'd have to think about what we're doing besides those things, and maybe that's something we might have to work on.
For sure. Well, something you mentioned, which was good, and I'm sure it can be like tweaked for different industries. For like ours, for example, we could do it. Was the client that you mentioned had done a free service just to get that 5-star review? Like for us, we might go out to do a job and they didn't pay for the window cleaning, but we know it'll only take a few minutes, so we might just add it on for free anyway. So doing little things like that, I don't know if it's possible within your industry, but little things like that definitely do make an impact.
So with regards to things like that, yeah. So we carry extra 9-volt batteries because sometimes people don't have ladders to change out the batteries in their smoke detectors. That's just one of the little things I guess we do that we make sure we take care of. When we do whether it's a maintenance call or a demand call, we always make sure that we go through the entire system, because I don't want to just find the thing that's broken today. I want to look around and find what caused it to break. We've taught our team to think forensically, not just about the thing that's broken today. And so we look into all of the reasons why this service call happened today. And I think people appreciate that we're not just there swapping parts. We're actually looking through to see. We want to make sure it doesn't happen again, right? And if it's something that's going to be a warranty, let's just call it what it is. I'm a little selfish. I don't like to do free work, so I want to make sure we fix it right the first time. Because we do warranty our repairs even, so we want to make sure that things are done right the first time. And one of the things we do too is we actually have gift baskets that get sent out. Or delivered, I should say, because my wife usually makes them. However, we are looking at a service that I think Brandon Brown from Brown's Heating and Cooling, or Heating and Air in Virginia, uses. They deliver some goodies to the customer after the fact at a certain price point. And so we're looking at, after an installation that we do, we're looking at sending out some kind of a goodie basket that the customer can enjoy.
That's awesome. Yeah, and unfortunately, in the pressure washing industry, that's not really common practice because the tickets are usually too low for it to make sense. But I love the idea, and we can still do smaller stuff like get cards and stuff like that. But I always love hearing businesses that implement stuff like that, because I know that's the easy way to win you over, is just sending you a goodie basket.
And one of the things we do is our technicians are in the home, and so they're kind of looking around to see what kind of things do these people like. It's like, is there a little wine fridge? Okay, maybe we get them a bottle of wine and some cheese board or something to go with that, and put that in a nice little basket and send that over. So paying attention to those kind of things when, having conversations with the customers that are not related to, well, what I found was this thing on your, but having deeper conversations and building that rapport with the customer, we're able to find out those things like they like coffee, so we're gonna get them a Starbucks or whatever local. I prefer to do local coffee shop gift cards if I can.
Yeah, that's awesome. Like, do they like sports teams? You can have a conversation around that, buy them something related to that. Like, there's tons of different ways you can go about it. But again, back to actually knowing your customer, speaking with them, being conversational, acting like you want to build that relationship, not just being there just to collect money and be out.
Exactly.
And that all comes back to characteristics, making sure you have the right people on your team. Because if you don't, they are not going to do those things at all. But again, if you have the right people on the ship, they're going to do an amazing job and generally treat your customers really well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Awesome. So my last thing I want to dive into, you've been in business for a while, over 10 years now, and I'm sure you've had a lot of lessons or maybe hurdles that you've learned from. Do you have any like big takeaways that you've learned over the years that you'd like to share?
Absolutely, man. It's something that was probably the biggest eye opener that I ever had. I had when I first started out, it was just me in a truck, and after some time, I went to needing help, and I did what most small business owners do. I went to my group of friends, and I was like, "Hey, you need a job. Why don't I teach you how to do air conditioning? You're mechanically inclined." And I hired him, and I say that we were friends because we were. We aren't as good of friends as we used to be. And it was because of my poor leadership. As an owner, you get this idea that employees are there to help you run your business. And to an extent, that is true. But when you take that mindset and throw it in the trash, and instead you take the mindset of, as an owner, it's your job to make sure that you're making their lives better, your whole world will change. I've patched up that friendship to a degree. We don't go and hang out like we used to, just. But I learned a lot from that. He worked with me for several years, and my relationship with my employees now is very different. My outlook on having staff is very different, and even my business is run by the philosophy of 3 wins, where there's 3 wins that happen. And Michael, I'm going to ask you this question: who's first? You have the business, you have the customer, and you have the employees. Who comes first?
It's a really good question. I would argue between the customer and the employee. If you treat your employee great, they're going to do an amazing job and thus provide for the client and do a great job. But of course, at the end of the day, everything they do needs to be customer centric. So I would say between the two.
So my philosophy is that the customer is important, but you can't serve customers without employees. And so the employee comes first. They have to be treated well. They have to be taken care of. They have to be your focus. So as an owner, my customer are my employees. That's what comes first. And that's the biggest lesson I learned, is that they have to come first. They have to be taken care of. They have to be paid well. They have to be treated good. We've got to make sure that we're making their lives better so that they want to be here. That's the way we attract that high quality talent.
Yeah.
And so when I changed my mindset from, customer first, and I changed it to my customer is actually this person who's my employee, my whole entire business changed, and the churn that I had disappeared. So that's probably the biggest lesson I learned, is that it's you take care of your people will take care of your customers, and your customers will take care of the bottom line.
Yeah, that's actually a really good point, because if you treat your employees poorly, then they're probably going to do poor work and they're not going to really care too much about doing a great job. But on the opposite side, if you treat them amazing and really try to help them like level up as human beings, then they're going to want to do amazing work, and that's going to grow their business and treat the customers well as a result. So as a business owner, you obviously can't, put the customer first, because you're probably not even interacting with the customer. but you are interacting with your employee. And if you do, those things, then they'll grow your business just by providing amazing service to your customers.
Absolutely.
Awesome. Any other little tidbits just before we wrap up?
I hear lots of back and forth, hire slow, fire fast. I think Gary Vee says promote faster. Definitely make sure that you're hiring the right people. Put some kind of metrics in place to determine what the right person is and what the expectations are, and make sure that they're meeting those. And if they're not meeting those within the first 30 days, let them go. I don't care how busy you are. I don't care if you're not going to be able to get out of the truck. You're going to be in a bad situation if you keep those bad people on, because the fastest way to lose good people is to tolerate bad people.
Yeah. That's a hard lesson for people to learn, but it's honestly so true. It's like a tumor, it grows. If you let them on the team, they're just going to feed into everyone else, kill their attitude, and also show that if you keep them there, then you accept complacency or you accept bad behavior.
Yeah.
And so they're going to start acting that way as well.
Yeah, you can't have it. Don't let it go. And we do a 30-day check-in with all of our team and individually. And if somebody's not feeling good about how things are going, it's usually because it's somebody else on the team that we let in. And once that gets resolved, things go back to being great.
So just to wrap it up, your thought process is hire slow, fire fast?
Yeah, absolutely. If they don't fit your culture, they shouldn't have made it on the team. But even if somehow they did because they had all the right answers, right? Let's face it, those people that are available to interview are available to interview for a reason. They didn't likely quit their job. They were let go. And just be careful who you bring onto your team.
Yeah. And to be fair, like you said, that 30-day grace period, by 30 days, whether they're a good fit or not. I feel like some people probably just allow it because they need the worker. But in reality, like you said, if you keep them on it, they could cause way more damage than they do good. So hopefully that's a wake-up sign for anyone that's keeping someone on the team that they shouldn't.
Absolutely. And like Gary Vee says, promote faster. If you find that there's a guy who's excelling, get him the training he needs. Make sure, it might not be promote him to a different position, but elevate him at least in your business. Get him the training that he needs so that he can keep shining.
100%. Awesome. Well, that was all my questions for today. I really appreciate you hopping on. This was super valuable. For anyone that watches today, wants to learn a bit more about you and what you're doing, where could they find you online?
So I'm actually in the process. I work as a business coach, and I'm in the process with a few other coaches putting together a new program. So we're very new, but the program is called SOAR, SOAR. And we are going to be launching our first webinar about the end of this month, beginning of next. People can reach me for information about that at coachingtrades@gmail.com. And I will provide them any information they want to know and links to that webinar, and we'll go from there.
Awesome. Well, I'll also include your links in the description below. But like I said, with that being said, this was super valuable. Thanks for coming on, Chris.
Yeah, absolutely. It's great being here.